Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation as SpiceFM right here. The Situation Room as well, just making sure that we have these conversations with you, ensuring that we are able to push the conversations forward and also be the, people would say, be the optimizers of change, if that is English that makes sense. No, Kip Kemboi.
Yes, sir.
Habari yako bana?
Mzuri.
Salama?
Yeah.
Bwana sifiwe sana.
Amina.
Yeah, so that's Noah Kipkemboy from the business desk today. Is here to ensure that the situation continues to move forward. Happy to see you, sir.
Asante.
We are here together with Joe Kamanya. Joe,
My goodness.
welcome back.
Thank you.
Karibu sana.
I should be welcoming you back.
No. Welcome back.
Last
Welcome
time
back.
you are not
welcome
here.
back.
So welcome back.
Last time, but this time I'm here before you, right?
Okay.
So welcome back, Joe. Happy to see you.
Here. Yeah, good to be here.
And I just want to say hello and asante sana to everybody who's here. Evelyn, asante sana, welcome. JB, we have Anaitonani, Derek as well. The Sheila Timburi is here in the news department. We have Mutanu on the socials. The entire cog that makes the situation room be what it is today. You know, we have to salamia, everybody's here. But before we get to the show this morning, let's just talk about some of the conversations that we'll be having today. And at 7 a.m., we will be having a conversation around as censored creativity. So it is a political messaging ban, and you remember the government of Kenya through the Ministry of Education told school-going children, hey, you want to talk about 1 term, 2 term, kwenda Singapore. Toa hiyo mchezo hapa peleka huko. You know, so enda cheza huko nje, you know. So many having conversations around the same in terms of creativity, especially in the advent of CBE. What is CBE, Kamanya?
It should be competence-based
education, focusing mostly on competency and how important creatives then contribute to the economy and to the country as well. You look at countries like the United States of America and how big the entertainment industry is, and you look at even the comedians just throwing jobs at the government, and that's starting all the way from school. So I want to ask the question, are we doing it the right way?
I mean, it's the big discussion, especially moving it from extracurricular to co-curricular. So sort of embracing that creative economy that we always talk. You know, it's innate in Africans to be good at these things, but can we monetize it and sort of create a structure around it? So it's an interesting one, man.
Yeah. So we shall be having that conversation with Karumba Ngatia. You know who Karumba Ngatia is?
Karumba Ngatia.
Yeah. DJ Crowbar, yes, we will be having that conversation with us, just talking about the ban of political messaging. And at 8 a.m., we will be having a discussion around raising the next generation, understanding adolescents today. You know, in high school, once you get to 12, adole manzo kuingia, you know, mtu manzo kutokewa na pimples, but it's deeper than that.
I love the part about deepness, especially the voicing out of it.
Yeah, you're breaking your voice, you know. So you know, but it's deeper than that. How do we then transition at that generation to be people can stand for themselves, people who understand what it is they're supposed to do, be citizens pretty much of the world. So to have that discussion with us, we will be talking to Dr. Njeri Karianjahi, who is an adolescent medicine specialist at the Aga Khan University Hospital, talking about raising the next generation. And to wrap up things at 9 a.m. will be Simon Malenya, who is IMLU Technical Lead Advocacy and Treaty Bodies. Now, talking about human rights violations, survivors and victims compensation. So we talk about human rights violations, so that stems from those who are extra, it's called police brutality.
Yeah, extrajudicial
killings. You know, you talk about the 2007 post-election violence. You know, and where are we with that as a country? How are we handling that in ensuring that victims of human rights violations get to access justice? And the country being seen to be doing something about it. So let's talk about that at 9 a.m. But before we get to that, Noah Kipkemboi, kwa hii show kuna kwanga na kitu inaitwa Proverb.
a proverb.
Proverb. And every week we go to a different country in the continent. This week we've been in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I know you like Lingala. That's a conversation.
Congole.
Trust Noah to do that. But you also think about Congo, and the first thing that comes is the resources they do have as a country. So you talk about cobalt, battery, EV, green energy, but they're not adding value to that. You talk about today the Strait of Hormuz is closed, but Congo has oil deposits that have not even been accessed yet. And one asks the question, a country that has all these resources, why do they remain being where it is today? Talk about war that we see today in that country, and millions of Congolese still being displaced because of the ongoing war. Africa Union again, East Africa Community. Perhaps it's about time we sat down and looked at how Congo can be the king it's supposed to be in not only the continent but the world over, because Congo is feeding the world, whichever you want to look at it. But let's go to the proverb. Now we'll start with you today. Wewe ndio newbie hapa.
So unataka ni explain proverb.
You interpret it. You do not teach the parts of the forest to an old gorilla. Trust that to come from Congo because of the Congo forest and gorillas that they do have.
Randis can also relate a little bit.
But like here we in
gorillas.
We're in Congo. How would you interpret it?
You cannot teach an old path.
You cannot teach the parts of the forest to an old gorilla.
Oh, really? That's an interesting one. The way I can sort of break that down or how I interpret that is that first of all, age is something that is an asset that can be capitalized on. And looking at the country that we're in, where we are resource constrained, training, one of the biggest bills in this country of ours is every end of the financial year, we have a lot of unutilized funds. So what do agencies, ministries do? They sort of start organizing this impromptu training. They're like, Aseto,
conferences.
We see you have 2 ears,
Yeah.
Let us train you on how to utilize your ears. But the thing is that with all gorillas, they already know the forest. So don't take time to teach them. In fact, take an opportunity to learn from them. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Batoto ba Mungu.
Yeah,
I think speaks to an element of respecting people's craft. What they know. Appreciate that. The old gorilla knows its ways. It's been that forest for ages. So purporting to come and discover it in Africa where you found it, can just be outright annoying. So just respect people in their craft. When Kenyans tell you it is not working, it's because they know what works. When in a relationship, things that you are told they're not working, accept it's not working.
Yeah. I think I'm going to interpret that proverb with another proverb, where it is said that an old man sitting down can see what a young person cannot see while standing on top of a mountain.
I can actually add to that.
Yes.
Irongai ukipunguza tu maringo tu kidogo utanona kama ngoima.
Gotta love it, yeah. So that is it's interesting to see how then our guest will be able to interpret that as we proceed. But let's salamia people who are listening to us, and I think the technical team, if you could come and assist me, because these headphones today, we have a crazy feedback that is not making things easy for us this morning. But in the meantime, let's carry a Peter. Good morning from Mombasa. Be careful with your words. They can only be forgiven, not forgotten. True. They say once it's out, and taking it back is a zero-sum affair. Now, Robert Mboga, good morning. Spice family tuned from Mombasa. Good morning, tuning from Chuda, Mombasa. That is Dr. Venvek and Laban Motaroki. Good morning, good people tuned in. Karibu sana, Bernard Ugamba from Mombasa. Leta Kasongo kwa show. Tuna miss more structured lines. Tunakusikia sana. Tutamleta. I don't know what you're referring to, but tutamleta. Okay? Tutamleta. Because we're in Congo, when you talk about Kasongo, it's a song. Mziki Kasongo Mobali Nanga, you know?
Yeah.
So yes, as we know it as a song. But Dolly Lux, good morning Spice team. Good morning to you, Joseph Okondo. Good morning a certain team tuned in from Chuda, Mombasa. Seeing Winnie Odinga visit Senator Osotsi in hospital made my day, as that was true spirit of what Baba would have done had he been alive. You know, the story of individuals being hired to go attack an individual who's having coffee. The people who thought they had the kahunas to go attack this individual are the weakest links we do have in this country. You know, like these are people who should not ever stand anywhere to say mini mwanaume or whatever. Like, I don't know, I can't even compare you to an animal.
Yeah, it's annoying as you say, because I watched that clip. And I'm glad, you know, I think these are elements of AI that I appreciate, you know, we're able to capture and replay moments. And you can see how it's quite an organized activity. That was not by accident, you know. They knew what they were doing, they knew whom they wanted, they knew that only them know why they were doing that. But in this day and age where we keep saying that we need peace, that we are woke, because those are not old people. No. You know, those are young guys who should be upholding the rule of law. Whatever differences you have with a man, take him to court, go to the police. You know, you don't need to be a hired goon, a hired hand, or a hired gun in that case for you to go and meet or administer violence on a man. And what they forget is whatever you are paid is never enough. The consequences you're going to
pay.
Should any of these guys be arrested?
They have been arrested, actually.
They've been arrested.
Some have been arrested.
Now, whatever they were paid is nothing close to what they are going to pay, you know, with their time and life. So we need to rethink. Let's not get involved in these brawls where people decide they can, because they have money, they can disorganize your life. They've made you poor anyway. Now they want to hire you to meet violence, and then you face the consequences. We have to say no to these things.
It's really, really sad.
Peace can be created. Peace is not found. It's created. Everybody has to be deliberate. Say no to anybody trying to hire you for violence. And
let's continue with this. So we were saying hi to people because we might start and not finish. Tibbs Muge. Good morning, Spice team. Good morning to you, Leo. Hello, Set Hotel Prisons and Athletes Fuel Kings. World is low. Defunding media is control measure to ensure media is desperate for funding to survive and can worship the state. You know, we talk about pending bills that do exist. Unajua dawa ya deni ni kulipa. Right? We will bring supplementary budget so that you pay people that you choose not to, but dawa ya deni ni kulipa. And you see government, it does not mean that the government of Kenya will stop once this government leaves or once these MPs leave office, because remember again, it's Kenyans will decide whether you're coming back or not. But again, dawa ya deni ni kulipa. Whether it takes 10 years. We will still go back because we have all the documentation, and the government of Kenya, regardless of who will be there, will just have to pay, because that is a debt owed to Kenyans. All right? Tusonge. Hiyo najua imeniguza kwa roho sana. Nyinyi mnanielewa, imeniguza.
Haogopi.
Leo. Leo siogopi. Leo. After how billions tutatenga to demolish and construct this State House wall built on the riparian since before independence. You know what? One thing I would say, if State House actually broke the law by encroaching on riparian land, let it be brought down. But Kenyans, you should read another communication from that directive from the president. If State House wall can be brought down because it encroached on riparian land, what about you, who is not president of the republic, not living in State House, and you built on riparian land? That should be a warning shot to you to know that tunakukujia if you built on riparian land. So don't say the president is reclaiming land. No, read that information as a person who built on what? On riparian land. Anza kuhama sahi, because nitakuuliza swali. If State House can cede land, who are you?
I mean, that's a good one. But again, as we've experienced this in the past, many of these statements, they come off a little bit as performative.
True.
It's like, I'll ride to the narrative of the day, and it will seem very nice until when they go ground. Sasa unaanza kuambia Waseto, I know I've built on riparian, lakini si tunaweza songesha hii river isonge kando kidogo, ipige kona izunguke.
Yes.
Unaona, so you start seeing that dichotomy in the world. You speak one thing, but in reality, implementing on the ground, that's where we really do lack.
Kwa ground mambo ni different.
Exactly.
Yes, Margaret Enjoy, good morning. Spice Situation Room from Houston, Texas. Happy Friday. Let's continue the great conversation. Margaret Enjoy, asante sana for being up at this time and tuning in to Spice FM. Leo, message to Prince Ndu, atulete mafuta nduthi in this nation full of fuel. What to Nduthi seems to be most affected. Just curious, do they use different fuel from the cars that they do use? Ndu umesikia, binti wa mfalme, ujumbe umefika. And Bernard Nyaberi, morning guys. With the economy, how does one person use almost 8 million on one trip to Embu or Meru every now and again? It's unfair. That is from the office of the Deputy President. And Mashari and Jerry, good morning. Spice, Tim, Dennis, Kip and Joe, watching from Portland, Oregon. Cry, my beloved country. Asante sana for tuning in, Masharia. And Nahashan Ngugi, good morning, Dennis, Joe, and entire Spice family. Wishing you a restful and wonderful weekend. We don't take for granted all you guys do and the conversation you guys bring. Love from Arizona. Asante sana for being here. And we are here to ensure that the cog continues, that the wheel continues to move, and that if you're part of that cog, we shall do that which we're supposed to do. Kisa Daniel, morning Spice, morning to you. Rashid, good morning Team Spice, good morning to you. Christina, good morning. How are you, Christina, in the Middle East? Tell us the situation from Qatar. I'm assuming that's where you are. How's the situation? Have things gone down? Are you experiencing some semblance of peace? Talk to us. Tell us how you are there in the Middle East. And Enoch and Zina, good morning from India. Namaste, namasakra. Namaste to you. You know, there's one time, there's a joke that was going around. If you're having, and this is not stereotype, but it's a joke that is going around. If you want to win a bet from an Indian, just tell them, in every conversation you're having, don't move your head.
Oh,
good morning, Joe. I am fine.
I'm fine.
You know,
Namaste, Bhaiya.
Namaste. Namaste. You know,
I think you've been influenced a lot by this popular movie called Three Idiots. It was overwatched by many Kenyans. Dobe, 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 pampara. You know, even dance when you enter the studio setup. No.
You know, it happens. Yeah, exactly. And to Flani, happy Friday to you all over. Ever since goons started working with cops, it became an enterprise. 2027, they will become a bigger problem, hoping that security agencies are there to ensure that that does not become a reality. And Robert Miner, good morning, team. Spice from Doha, 8 million in travels. Sijali, tunalia sote. We are asking the same questions. Good morning, Spice FM. How are you all this Friday? Mimi niko salama. How are you?
Nikosa
Lama. Wewe?
Siogopi.
Uogopi? Mimi niko Spice, lakini niko salama. Yeah. And Bwangi Juma, good morning, Spice FM. How are you all this Friday? Tuko salama. We aren't afraid. Yes, kabisa. And Isa Kale, good morning, Spices. Just backbenching and healing from the week's happenings, minding my health in this plantation. Happy for you, Isa Kale. Everything that you must do for you to continue moving forward, we welcome that. And to everybody who's listening to us this morning, tunasema asanteni sana for being here. Remember that you're streaming live on YouTube, on Instagram, on X, as well as on our website. And you can also download the Spice FM app and be with us wherever it is you are going. We start with Kenya's bold newspaper, that is the Standard. Bitok, Grade 11 storm. So it is a book of wars, and a fierce internal battle at the Ministry of Education has halted a 7 billion shillings textbook tender, putting next year's Grade 11 rollout at risk. Award letters remain unsigned. The timelines are sleeping, and publishers warn any restart could derail supply, exposing the government to lawsuits and leaving schools unprepared. That is the story on page 4. But the timeline we're looking at is on August 19th, 2025. Formal invitation to submit materials was given, and on November 7th, 2025, submissions and notifications to publishers. The communication happened on November 25th, 2025. Deadline for submission of proposals was given, and on December 20th, expected release of evaluation results. Now, On December 27th, 2025, the deadline for appeals was issued by the ministry, and on January 3rd, KICD was supposed to respond to the appeals, and submission of corrected copies was supposed to be done on February 6th, 2026. And on February 10th, 2026, official results release date as per the KICD letter, and on February 20th to April 30th, 2026, printing and publishing window was supposed to be taking place. That is around this time. And between May and July 2026, distribution to schools was supposed to be starting. But what are we talking about? We're talking about the tender that has been cancelled. 7 billion shillings tender has been cancelled. Ask the question. Grade 11, remember, grade 10, it is that class that has experienced difficulty, especially when it comes to school, because they are one would say the guinea pigs of CBE. But here we are looking at the ministry and what it is supposed to do. And one asks the question, why are we just not planning well to ensure that we deliver on education to the students, to the children of this country, Kamanya?
No, we know why we are not planning very well.
Why?
Because we can't. Mm-hmm. We have incompetent people in office. It's very plain and simple. The Ministry of Education is just merely a logistical ministry. When it comes to matters education, they're just supposed to make sure that we're on schedule, on exam, on facilitation, capacity building, transition. Mm-hmm. But what do we get? We just graduated from grade 10, now we're in grade 11. Yeah. I wonder what next, because it's a scandal after the next. But if you look at it, you'd want to understand what happened. And I really would want to see the report on transition from KCPE to CBE.
To CBE, yeah.
Because they must have projected what needs to be done, specific times, and the timelines, as we are seeing now. So who is not doing their work? Mm-hmm. It's not that we don't have the plan laid out. We don't have the reports. They're there. But it's the implementation part that seems to not move. And unfortunately, the only places where we keep having hitches in implementation of the public policy, be it health, education, or otherwise, is where there is budgetary allocation.
Allocation, yeah.
When they want to do anything else, they'll quickly do it. They want to formulate regulations or new laws, they'll do it. When it comes to budgetary allocation and review, that's where we have concerns. So it's about the money, and we have to say it for what it is. I think we have incompetent people running and managing our public policy.
Call it what it is. Yeah.
Health, education, whatever it is.
I mean, it's a huge reminder of a very popular song in the mid-2000s by Boomba Clan. An African timer who never keeps time. And reason I'm saying that is a direct quotation here.
Yeah.
When you open in page 4, speaking to the Standard yesterday, Bitok exonerated himself, saying the plan to restructure the process will not affect the distribution. And this is quote, there is a lot of time between now and January for procurement to be conducted. Like, chill guys, bana. Tukona time. Mbona mnanikimbiza?
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Me, I've always said it on this show, right? We just from, and I'll connect this with another scandal, the fuel scandal right now. Yeah, the cabinet secretary says I was unaware. Sikuwa najua, despite the fact that we are seeing letters that went through his office. So if you are unaware and you don't know what is happening in your office, why are you still there, President William Ruto? Why are you still having him there? If the cabinet secretary, if PS Bitok right now says that we should not get worried, yet we've seen how his ministry has handled education thus far, Mr. President, again. What are you doing with such individuals in office? We just have to call it for what it is. Incompetence can never deliver. Never deliver. Yeah. So we go to page 2. Leaders pile pressure on IG Kanja to resign over Senator Osotsi's attack. There's a question that was asked yesterday. Where was Osotsi's security?
Good question.
Where was his security? Walikuwa wapi? At the time when he was being attacked, investigations will tell us. Yeah. But good thing so far is that individuals who were part of that, the goons, have been arrested as investigations continue. Those guys, I think they should serve time. Wawe funzo kwa wengine wenye tabia kama zao. Now, court has cleared way for 619 billion shillings EABL share sale. Noah, business. Should we invest?
I mean, this is EABL transitioning to a Japanese owner, that is Asahi Group Holdings. And this change is quite interesting when you speak to people in the kinywaji business. Yeah.
Uji.
Yeah. Ni uji business. Yeah. It's quite consequential when you see foreign investors taking interest in some of these business lines, and some exiting. Diageo is a big player globally, but they really specialize in zile makali, as we call them makali. So when it comes to beer, it's never been their forte. And I think when we see this Japanese coming in, there is a value add to it, because they have their whole system that they run. We derive lots of principles from the Japanese, the ikigais of this world. So you expect that they're going to be doing business a little bit different. And even speaking, I have a friend who works in the company. I was like, are you guys afraid of your jobs? Always when there is a change of ownership, there is that fear. But so far, we haven't had that talk. So, I mean, the legal system, it's a tool. Sometimes it can be used good or bad, but the fact that they've been given the green light, is good for business, that it continues.
Kabisa. Now, Instagram spends big money for influencers as well. That is there on page 4. Now, Facebook ranks second as TikTok falls behind despite leading in views. And Kenya's top 10 influencers earned 296 million shillings from social media marketing. Nakwambia after today. Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Part of these 296 million must be among these individuals. Now, Senate Forum unanimously supports Thika's city status bid. So Thika might just be another city in the country. The ministry, KICD TASL threatens to delay issuance of grade 11 books. That's a story that we've just gone through and not long ago. And Ruto says results of 80 million shillings deal with City Hall to be seen in a few months. So story na drought imeisha, State House wamerudisha shamba. What else will we see? Garbage collection will be handled. What else? Kanjo would not be mistreating people. What else do we expect?
Rosiwa into Nairobi River.
Nairobi
River flowing.
Yes. We will stop flowing. Noah, as a resident of Nairobi, what do you expect from 80 billion?
Proper connection to power, especially in the informal settlement.
I think also 24-hour supply of water from the taps, because 80 billion shillings is there to ensure that. I think also perhaps maybe they will look into handling traffic. So maybe we will invest in AI. We have traffic lights that are managed from a central command center, so we don't need to see Kanjo harassing people or police officers on the roads.
Lazima iwak.
So what are we looking at? You have the Star, or look at the Daily Nation, you look at the Star, right?
Okay. Right. The Daily Nation revealed counties asking for fat bribes. They've been listed. And Kip was telling me his home county is doing very well. They've performed excellently.
Perfect.
Yes. The top 10 counties, the average size of bribes paid to county officials. Kakamega carries the day at over 79,000. West Pokot, I wonder what even one has to bribe for in West Pokot, but it is well.
They have a serious water reservoir in West Pokot. So
it's just the same conversation about how strenuous it is to access both county services. The fact that you have to pay for it, it's an aversion of the rule of law. So that's what the Daily Nation is talking about. That the national average bribe paid to public officials as at 2025 up from 4,878 in 2024 has gone to 6,724. That's the cost of you accessing services that you're paying for through your taxes.
They're factoring in inflation, so
cost of living has gone high, so what we ask also has to go up.
Right. So the story continues. Basically, that is extortion. In other words, that is extortion. Still, the 3 arrested of our Sotsi's attack, and more are being sought. The story continues as well on page 7. That's a very unfortunate incident. Page 2 of the Daily Nation talks about the rise and fall of a conservation dream. I think you heard of a person called President Moi. Did you find him in power? He had started this building of gabions. He was very big on conservation and agriculture. So he had an initiative somewhere in Machakos. But the sand harvesting seems to be, plowing back the gains that had been achieved by then. So there are concerns because, there's a lot of land there, but the sand harvesting interferes with the conservation. So we seem to be destroying our own ecosystem just the interest of mere monetary benefits. So there has to be a balance between development and environmental factors that we want to sustain as the year. Conservation has to be big. Water and air comes from land, not from up. Comes from below. Something we need to go back to. That story goes on page 2. There is a fatal building collapse that has landed a landlord in jail. That's very unfortunate. The story continues. There's a building that came down in Huruma Gay Estate. Well, EACC survey exposes the counties and public officials receiving highest bribes. That's a story that is leading on the front page. And there was an interesting story. I'll find it for you. But on page 8, you have the audited accounts. Remember, we are approaching the end of the financial year. So there'll be a lot of that. That is from Jubilee Holdings. And then page 10, Ruto digs in against the rising hostility in Mount Kenya's 2027 battle for the vote hot up. You know what is unfortunate about that story? The whole shit show, as I call it, had nothing to do with us as the public. Had nothing to do with us for service delivery. They were just talking about their own personal differences and rebuke on power. So we need to realize that this has nothing to do with us. As a people, we need to be, change the narrative and have it very people-centric. Anybody who is not talking about we, the people, we don't need to listen to them. Let them fight if they want to. The decision is ours. But that conversation had nothing to do with the people.
Nothing.
Absolutely. So that's the Daily Nation. More stories. Kindly grab yourself a copy.
Definitely. Let's take a look at the Star, Weekend Star, and top story. Auditor General says debt in question has not been serviced for over 3 years, and this is a 10 billion shilling bad loans sinking youth and women fund. And of course, it exposes the stories on page 4 and 5, but it exposes many of these funds that are coming up in the name of interventions and advancing credit. But the nature of how we assess the credit worthiness of people we are loaning money to, somebody just needs to survive, but you're giving them 10,000, hoping they'll start a business. Definitely, you will experience some of these things. Apart from that, another top story, which has been elaborated on page 8, magistrates receive highest bribes at 165k as more men bribe police. Maybe it's a road thing, and I saw that breakdown very nicely on the Nation newspaper. Which page was that? I wanted to note it. It's page 4. They did wonderful graphics right there, where you see that magistrates at court, they are receiving the highest, followed by land registry officers. They are well paid. And it's unfortunate. Because this is justice system. So quite unfortunate. Then the issues of land that we face in this country and how historic it is, they are also eating good, quote unquote, which is quite unfortunate right there. Elected representatives from county government. Devolution is working, etc. Yes, and immigration officers, if you want to go work, if you want to leave the country, people are looking for greener pastures. You have to pay your way into green pastures. So that is on the Star newspaper. It's been highlighted on page 8 and also on page 13. Kenya's telcos lose 354 million in SMS revenues over 3 months. And these data from the telecommunications sector, how we communicate has been shifting over time. Kitambo, if somebody would call you on WhatsApp, you'd feel kata, then call the normal call.
Yeah.
Right now it's pretty normal.
It's normal, yeah.
Video calls are pretty normal. So the change in technology, many times it shifts how we communicate. There are losers and gainers, just like in any market. So it's quite interesting to see. Other than that, another story lastly that I need to touch on is this issue of reliance on foreign aid on page 6. Trump to Kenya, no U.S. cash for condoms. Okay. Strap it up, Africa, but not at our cost. Okay. Oh, that's a bad one. Anyways, so American money should not buy condoms and other family planning products for Kenya. This according to the U.S. president, and this proposal has appeared in the 2027 U.S. government budget request released on Friday. And I just quote, the United States should not pay for the world's birth control and therapy. Examples of eliminated activities include promoting health equity and providing condoms and contraception in Kenya. And I think this will reveal the importance of self-reliance and building credible systems within the country. So this donor reliance, I think Trump has really shaken up that sector. We have to look internally and see what we need to do different.
And I think I agree in terms of we just have to look inward and find our solutions to our own problems. You know, for a very long time, you look at healthcare, it has been funded mostly by the donor community, you know, especially when it comes to the contraceptive use and all that. So it's about time the government of Kenya, through the planning department, you know, and the health ministry, to sit down and look at how we will address this. It's about time that we also maybe you know, we have a lot of plastics up Dandora.
Kila mahali.
You know, let us put up industries. Yeah, let us put up industries. We look at how we will recycle, how we will build our own reliance on our own resources. You know, it can be done.
Unaona ukisimama governor 2027. We just cut that clip where you say, let us, you gotta convince people. Because
that's what we need.
Are things that have been said time and time again. But once you get into positions of influence, then priorities change.
Yeah.
You know, I shudder when I see the president pride himself on importing fertilizer. Yet I know for a fact that we lose 40 to 60% of our farm produce between harvest and market. That we can turn that around to our own fertilizer.
True.
Just for our own consumption. We grow the soil. Again, fertilizer is not food. If it were food, we'd have taken it to Marsabit. So we need to review, as you are saying, these interventions. And unfortunately, the heavy reliance on foreign intervention continues to just, make our realization of homegrown solutions a mirage, and we continue to pay hefty. When President Trump decides that he wants to safeguard his economy and use the American tax as well, I don't know why we catch feelings on that. We should be doing the same as a country, as a continent. We have our own resources. You know, you were talking about Congo earlier. So we need to reset, and redefine how we want to accelerate forward as a country, as a continent. It narrows down to poor leadership. You ask me, if Aseto is not the governor, all these things remains as he has. But however,
Aseto will change. Money will change Aseto.
There is a story on page 10 of the Standard.
Let's look at that.
And I would want the Spice family to help us reach this Busia county. It reads, hospital holds woman over 75,000 bill. A young woman is being held at the Busia County Referral Hospital alongside the body of her son after failing to settle a medical bill of 75,000. Karen Achieng, who is 24 years old from Amase village in Teso South, said she was referred to the facility from Alupe Sub-County Hospital in February. The son died on Thursday last week, and the hospital management has refused to allow her to leave with the body until the outstanding bill is cleared. She says, I just want to go home and bury my child with dignity, but I have no money. The more I stay here, the more the bill gets expensive. Daily mortuary bill is 300 shillings. She is appealing for help. The case raises concerns of the continued detention of patients despite the government assurances under the Social Health Authority. If anybody can talk to a Busia whatever, an MC or the governor. They need to intervene on this issue today.
Governor Paulo Tuoma.
Yes, it is a crime to hold a woman with a dead son in a hospital because of a bill. And yet we are out here saying that the Social Health Authority is working. We need to resolve this as today, just for humanitarian purposes.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, you know, in a country where we pride ourselves in having the most advanced insurance service, which is SHA, right? They say it's advanced, right? But if it is working, why are we seeing this woman in hospital unable to walk out?
And her son is dead.
And the son is dead. Yeah. And we also have to ask the question, this thing of hospitals holding bodies as ransom, if you hold this body for 10 years, okay, fine. Will that pay the bill? All you're doing is just elongating the pain this family has because their loved one has died. But then again, this also happens in a controlled environment because governments are there to ensure that there are referees to ensure that healthcare works. You know, that in the event that this woman is unable to pay, they can sit down and have a conversation and agree on how that will be paid over time. You know, we agree that services, healthcare is not for free. Let's accept it. Even in SHA, you have to pay for you to access. Sawa, tumekubali. But can't you just sit down as a county, as government of Kenya with this woman and say, okay, fine, we agree you do not have the 75,000 shillings, right? And as a government, we need that to be paid. But can we sit and agree on a payment mechanism so that you can go mourn in peace? In the meantime, unaweza lipa pole pole 1,000 every month until that time when you're able to finish it. And this conversation that we should be having.
These are conversations worth having.
I mean, reality is that these institutions, whether you like it or not, they offer services. Foundationally, what I see from this story, and this is one of many stories. I know there are a million others out there. Because medical bills are one of the areas that lead people and most families into poverty. You might be middle class. One disease like this wipes you guys clean. So the thing is, poverty is so dehumanizing. And these are the stories that I'm not able to pay to release my son's body. It's so dehumanizing. So how do we avoid this? We can talk about interventions. At the end of the day, this 75,000 has to be paid in one way or another. But the thing is poverty. How do we get rid of poverty in our society? It's so imbalanced right now, man.
You know, it is so wrong that today we're looking at that situation the way it is. But you know, it is so sad that it is in the very same ministry where we are being told of how billions of shillings are getting lost every day. You know, this woman only needs 75,000 shillings, which is not even... what percentage is it to 11 billion shillings that are getting lost? You know, I mean, it's just... We need to sit down as a people and look at where is our soul when it comes to dealing with humanity. And just poverty is dehumanizing, like you've said, right? But we are here having systems to ensure that dignity is restored so that uchi wangu unafichwa because I believe and trust that the government has my back.
And you know, the county government has powers to waiver this fee. They have the discretion, you know, to deal with matters, as you're saying, at a humanitarian level. This is a woman who has lost a son. So you can imagine holding her in that same hospital and the dead son is in a morgue in the same compound. But as you rightly put it, this has all come down because of poverty again. The mismanagement of our resources. Because we are meant to have social, you know, universal health coverage. That's why it's a social thing, to make sure that everybody is taken care of and accommodated. It is not free, I agree. It is public funded by our taxpayers' money. Therefore, it is only prudent that when there are these needy cases, because genuinely there are those needy cases, I would not be surprised that she's SHA compliant, but she's still being held. Because they say it's going to pay a component of. And yet there are people who you'll hear they've been paid for $1 million plus. You know, you see the imbalance. So that cherry picking on application of our policies is what I'm worried about. But I really hope that this one finds relief. Please get this story to the attention of the Busia county administration.
For those who are listening, these are the stories that continue to happen in the country, and you're here to bring them to the fore. To the woman who's lost a son, Pole Sana. We hope that intervention will be given to you. But that is where we conclude a newspaper review. It is exactly 1 minute after 7 a.m. It is news time.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.